episode 66 with Dan Henderson, chatting volunteering in the digital, published Wednesday 17th January 2018. The future utopia.
Absolutely, yeah.
Twice, 2 weeks in creative endeavour, shares tightly edited stories, learns and journeys to now of innovators, creatives and enterprises making positive dents on society. I'm your host, David Binstead. Happy New Year to one and all. Our 2018 shows begin with a focus on the volunteer and philanthropy sectors in New Zealand. Over the next 4 episodes, I'll be sharing insights from people deeply involved and informed about the sectors to share perspectives, learns and actionable insights. My guest today is Dan Henderson, Stakeholder Development at BeCollective, a digital platform for, amongst other things, managing and engaging volunteers. He's a family and dog man, a team sportsman, and he's a self-described optimist with high expectations. Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
BeCollective, just tell us a little bit about them and also the work that you do for them.
Fantastic. So BeCollective is actually part of a wider family group from basically the Wise family. The Wise family brought the body shop to Australasia 30 years ago. And they share similar values, or the same values as their founder, Anita Roddick, who really put corporate social responsibility on the map. Since then, I guess they've operated the body shop and recently sold the body shop, but have continued to develop their own bring social enterprises to Australasia and also develop their own. And I guess BeCollective being one of them. Rob Wise, the founder, while he was working for the body shop, they really wanted to give back to the community, but really struggled to identify a way of doing that. And so he started to develop this idea around a platform which you could go on and find opportunities. And I guess finding and matching opportunities and volunteers are a big thing, but also it's about actually helping groups and people realise their positive social impact. And I think that's what we're talking with BeCollective. It's actually bigger than just volunteering and matching volunteers to volunteering opportunities. It's about helping people understand their impact, what they're actually doing, and how that's impacting being part of a greater whole that we hear about. So that's what we're doing here, and I guess we're leading it out in a New Zealand way. Obviously, it's all the same organisation and the same platform that we're rolling out, but really wanting to work with authentic New Zealand brands that share similar values to us and that really see value in the platform. So yeah.
I mean this in a polite way, but you're doing quite a bit of hustling to try and build interest in what the BeCollective platform is trying to do. Just come back a couple of months or maybe a little bit longer, because as I mentioned just before we started recording, you remain a board trustee of the Inspiring Stories Trust. Guy Ryan we had on episode 50, 51, 52, anyway, what feels like way back. And in terms of the impact work they're doing as well, there must be quite a bit of crossover between that governance role and also the work you're doing here in kind of my language, sort of business development.
Absolutely, and I guess that role in itself is voluntary, and it's because I want to give to a cause that I truly believe in, and so the work that they do, absolutely. And I guess we're looking to work with organisations like Inspiring Stories to not only understand the work that they do, but to help them understand the actual real change or the impact they're having on a ground level with the work that they do. I guess with BeCollective, because I've got a background with local government, I've heard a lot about physical infrastructure, sewage plants, water treatment plants, whatever, roads, and so when I heard about BeCollective while I was working at LGNZ, I started thinking about social infrastructure and how BeCollective provides this foundation to actually build something and ingrain it in an organisation as infrastructure. It's not a software solution, and I think that's what we really pride ourselves on, is this bigger type or this holistic approach to infrastructure, I guess, and that's what's quite exciting. And everyone's got a part to play in that, whether you're a small SME, right up to a large corporate or a big community. Everyone's got a part to play in that, because I believe, everyone does have time to give, whether that's half an hour or whether that's 6 hours a week, or a year. Everyone does have time to give.
How does BeCollective sustain itself?
So we're philanthropically funded by the Wise family, and that's basically to start us up, and we've been on that journey for the last couple of years. Our sustainability model is largely based on a freemium versus premium type model. I'd say 90% of our platform is actually free, and the 10%, which is more around the tracking and reporting, being able to export all of that stuff, is our premium access, and that's really applicable to those corporates, to those large not-for-profits, to those communities that really want to track their own impact and want to be reporting that. To the volunteers, to individuals, to those small not-for-profits that have volunteers volunteering for them, they don't have the resource to be able to put into this, and so we want to be able to make this as accessible as possible to them, hence why we've made the front 90% end of the platform free.
Get them in the door.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not meant sarcastically in any way.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm really interested to ask about is the state of volunteering in New Zealand. Do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah. I guess just given my limited experience in the sector, I certainly wouldn't want to generalise too much, because I guess there's been people in the sector for a lot longer than I have been. Certainly our MOU with Volunteering New Zealand, we've worked quite closely with them on a number of things. I recently attended their annual conference. They talked about the state of volunteering and the research they had done, and actually, surprisingly, volunteering, the age of volunteering is actually coming down, and that was quite surprising to me. Also, that there's, I guess it's in terms of recruiting and retaining volunteers, that's becoming tougher and tougher as well. People are volunteering more on causes that are closer aligned to them, rather than just going out and giving their time freely. So people are becoming a lot more selective, and therefore organisations struggle to recruit or retain volunteers through that. So that's been quite interesting for me, and I think that's really helped me develop my process and my thought process as to how we market BeCollective to complement those trends, and to not just come in and fix this really specific problem, because we're really wanting to take this holistic approach to that kind of sector.
There's a perspective that volunteering in any country or even region or even city, that it's really fragmented. Is that something you maybe agree with, or do you think it's multi-layered rather than just fragmented?
I would say it's fragmented. I think every organisation has their own way of managing things, and I think now that technology is coming along, they're trying to adapt. But as we all know, change is extremely hard to influence, and so we're really committed to being a part of that change management process with all of those organisations that adopt BeCollective, because that's the main part. I mean, technology is so easy nowadays. Young people understand technology through and through. It's actually getting the organisation as a whole to understand that change management process, and to go on that journey as well. I think that's really important. You can't just adopt something and expect it to fix your issues. You've actually got to live and breathe it.
A much wiser person than me said recently, change actually is easy. Culture change is hard.
Absolutely.
And to bring those people with you as well, which is, I think, what in effect you're saying.
Absolutely. It's all about culture change. I when I was talking about BeCollective to I guess potential client, they talked about how Facebook's become the norm for running events. You set up an event, I'll put it on Facebook, and I guess what we're wanting with BeCollective is for volunteering it to become the norm over time, and that's a long journey, and that's why we're on that. We are on that journey. It's a long-term thing, over 4 to 5 years before we really see it ingrained in organisations and bought into by communities. So,
what is it that do you think BeCollective brings to the party that is going to help it achieve more success than others haven't?
Yeah, I think we're really focused on and being ingrained into infrastructure, whether that be in a community, whether that be in an organisation or a small organisation within a sporting club or something. I think that's one part of it. The second part of it, I think, is really around that impact reporting. I've heard a number of different social enterprises at the moment looking at and focusing on, or wanting to crack, I guess, impact reporting. And I think we've gone a long way. I don't want to say in solving that, because I think we'll always be working at that. But the functionality and the reporting that we've got in BeCollective is reasonably comprehensive. The really cool thing I think that we have as well is we've got this continuous pathway of development. So we've got our dev team working out of Melbourne that continues to work on the platform and develops it based on customers' needs. And that means that we can regularly be I guess researching and developing our system as those kind of needs change within the sector.
You really cut to the heart of one of the things that I'm most interested in this wider sector discussion, and that is, firstly, how do you measure? And secondly, how do you choose a good metric of measurement?
Absolutely, and I think that's why we really want to work with the likes of Volunteer in New Zealand and those types of groups that are doing research and are regularly speaking with their own members to get that type of thing. I guess the way we put our finger on it in terms of impact reporting is to really, it's tracking volunteering opportunities and reporting on the impact of them. And the way we do that is we calculate social value. How much is volunteering hours actually worth, and that's underwritten by the research or based on the research that's been done around impact of volunteering hours. And then we also look into demographics and causes and where volunteering is happening as well, and look to report that so that can influence change within an organisation or answer questions within an organisation or a community or to yourself as well. So actually being able to give statistics to the individual to say this is your own collective impact. To the the various causes you've given to or whatever, and as well as the skills they've acquired. So what have they actually done? And that can make them feel really good about themselves as well.
You're listening to David on Twice, 2 weeks in Creative Endeavour, episode 66, and the first in a short series chatting with people in the social impact space who devote expertise and time to causes they care about. Today, it's Dan Henderson from digital volunteering platform BeCollective, and next week's show, it's Alicia Watson from Nisa Clothing and a volunteer Red Cross refugee migrant advisor. Some of my overarching questions for this series. Some of the why. Why people are becoming increasingly purpose-driven with their work, and what makes them pursue careers in those sectors. What is the state of, and what are the trends in volunteering and in philanthropy? What role, if any, does government have to play in the sector? And practical advice for maximising your impact and finding the right fit. Why do you think people volunteer?
That's a really good question. I guess I'm going to use an example, and I was actually talking about this to my wife this morning, and I said to her, we've got two young ones. Yes, we can go down to the mall and we can buy a gift. They can buy a gift for the same age, a little person the same age as them. To those that are less fortunate. We can do that, right? But how can we give our time? And both of our responses to that is we wouldn't actually know where to go. Like, we could rock up to the local rest home on the day and say we help out, but they could also say, hey, we actually have too many volunteers or whatever. So I think from my own perspective, and this is a complete personal view, but people give because they really want to give and they want to influence change. And I don't mean that as this big kind of lofty statement, but I think people actually want to give and they want to help, and that's why. I think that's why people volunteer. I sit on, as you mentioned, Inspiring Stories, and I truly believe in the cause. I play cricket, and I'm also the treasurer, and I do that because no one else will do it, and I really, really want to ensure that my cricket club runs efficiently. And so I also captain the cricket team because I want to invest in the young guys coming through my team, so they can go on to greater heights in cricket. So I do that because I care, and I want to help others.
So it sounds like you're a words and a numbers man. Is that possible?
I didn't believe so until you told me.
Telling the story and adding up the numbers. Fantastic. Multi-talented.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to let that publish, because there'll be all these companies lining up going, words and numbers, far out.
We've never heard such a thing.
So if you have, like you've given some personal examples there, brilliant. But if you have advice for people who are thinking about trying to, it is a minefield that they're having to negotiate in terms of matching their desire to be helpful and useful with opportunities. BeCollective is kind of like more, it's a sort of a platform for organisations rather than perhaps the individual, although individuals can register, of course. Do you have any advice for people who are like wanting to take their next steps and to negotiate the many volunteering options? Well, what would you say to them?
I guess firstly, I guess our platform's for everyone. So the platform is certainly for individuals as well as groups. I think groups need to list opportunities, can have own staff that go out and volunteer, but also individuals have to be filling those opportunities as well. I guess aside from saying go on BeCollective and volunteer for some opportunities that closely align to your values, I think it would be, to get in touch. We talked about, email and hoping that dies. But I think in terms of, getting on the phone and actually ringing someone that or an organisation that you want to help, putting yourself out there, because they really do truly appreciate it. They don't just say that, and I think that. These organisations want to learn and develop as well. So at this Volunteering New Zealand conference, heard a lot about an organisation, someone having a really bad volunteering experience, but then being able to provide feedback to better volunteering as well. So better assist to do what they do. So yeah, I think it's just putting yourself out there, and if you want to help, tell someone, and I mean that, and ring the organisation you want to help, and that's what we're thinking about doing on Christmas Day is just ringing the local rest home and saying, hey, can the kids come out and give out some some shortbread or whatever, or just hang out with those that don't have family on Christmas Day,
You said at the very beginning that the BeCollective funding model is partly philanthropically funded, and it is hopeful that in the future it's going to be both a freemium and premium model as is now. Do you think in the future that government's going to have a role in that funding as well?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I guess we've largely developed our platform. Well, developed part of our platform based on the previous government's social record policy, and that's focused around every young person having a social record. We really liked that policy, and like I say, developed part of it. So basically, our platform is able to provide each user, whether you're young or old, with their own social resume. So kind of non-professional work experience, and being able to at a click of a button, have a social resume. But yeah, we certainly see that expanding. I think whether it's statistics, whether that's civil defence, whether that's education, whatever. I think that there's a number of things in our development pathway which will no doubt be of interest to the government, and we're certainly really keen to look at that. I guess one big thing is it's certainly not about taking resource away from other not-for-profits. It would be complementing, and I think that's what we're all about, is not taking resource off one organisation or another. It's actually complementing the work that they do, and being able to do that through our platform.
In terms of BeCollective being an Australian organisation, have you hit any opposition in New Zealand so far with that sort of sense of, well, we can do it ourselves because we're in New Zealand, as opposed to feeling that sense of what is an overseas organisation coming to New Zealand to be the saviour?
I think it's a really good question. I guess a couple of responses to that. Certainly had the question, why New Zealand? And I think in terms of, strategically, BeCollective has probably a closer fit and aligns closer with Kiwis' values than Australians. And I mean in that in the greatest respect. We, it's kind of like, here it's that she'll be right, let's just get on, and, that number 8 wire approach, that we just get on and do it. That if something needs to be done, we just go and do it. And I think that's been ingrained in our culture, and we don't actually realise we're volunteering. And I think that a lot of the time our platform can be seen as a little bit of an education piece for people that, actually I do this and this and this throughout the day. People don't realise that they volunteer every day, they just don't understand it.
Do you think that volunteering maybe has an image problem in contemporary society?
Totally. I think when we think about volunteering, or when people think of volunteering, they tend to think a person that's shaking the bucket down on the main street or something that's trying to collect money. Now that's volunteering, absolutely. But also the work I do at my cricket club, I certainly, before I took this role, did not see that as volunteering, because I have to pay my subs at my cricket club. I play cricket and I sit on there, and it's just something I do. But it's actually volunteering, and I'm having an impact on my community by being able to provide that. I think it absolutely has an image problem. Again, I mean that in the nicest possible way. I just think that we hone in very quickly on what we think volunteering is, and it has to be something where we have to go and put ourselves like way out of our comfort zone. Where really, you can go down and clean up the local river or beach with the kids, and that's volunteering. That's not at all putting you outside your comfort zone, but you're actually doing good. So I think that through BeCollective we hope to influence that, because we want to make volunteering more accessible, and so people can go on and sift through opportunities, apply for multiple opportunities, or not have to apply for any.
In 10 or 20 years' time, the future of work will be massively different. Do you think UBI, the Universal Basic Income, will have a place in both that future, but also in volunteering?
Yeah, I haven't given that much thought. Already we're seeing, this term purpose over paycheck, which I think is huge. And now in the world of social enterprise, you're seeing people exit out of high-paying corporate roles to focus on something that they're truly passionate about and truly want to create and influence change with. I certainly see BeCollective being a big part of that. If there was something like a UBI in the future, simply because people could start to do what they really are passionate about, and won't have to worry about how they're going to finance their way through life as well. So I think definitely.
Dan, it's been fascinating chatting. I really appreciate you giving time and letting me put you on the spot. I have quite a few questions you maybe weren't expecting.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Dave. Really appreciate it. Cheers.
Kia ora, it's David here, rounding out episode 66, chatting with Dan Henderson from BeCollective in the pod cave here at BizDojo Wellington. You can listen to more than 60 hours of tightly edited conversations since September 2015 with people sharing positive dents on society in your podcast app of choice and over at twicepodcast.com. Connect with Dan and BeCollective over at becollective.com. That's spelled BeCollective.com. And the show on Twitter and Instagram at twicepodcast. You can find me, David Binstead, on Twitter sometimes at David_Binstead. BizDojo are the first of 2 organisations supporting me to deliver this show. They're creating and facilitating communities of talented, interesting and clever humans pursuing their passions through a burgeoning network of co-work spaces across New Zealand. Their impact goal is to facilitate communities of people to collaborate in an inclusive, friendly and respectful environment, with flexible options for small and large teams and contract-free plans to suit any business. Go develop and deliver your purpose over at bizdojo.com. I'm also grateful to Collider Wellington for support to deliver this show. If you're in Wellington, build your future better by checking out the Collider Wellington monthly programme of largely free events. Access world-class intelligence, hang with some of the smartest people on Earth, and learn something new. Their goal is to connect thought leaders, emerging entrepreneurs, and inspirational experts to support the growth of the greatest little city on earth, Wellington, New Zealand. For all the details, go to colliderwellington.com. That's spelt Collider, Wgtn.com. You can find show notes and links in your podcast app of choice and via twicepodcast.com, where you'll also find today's episode match from the archives. Number 50, with Guy Ryan from Inspiring Stories and Hannah Duda from Indigo and Iris chatting startup and stay-up life in social impact and enterprise. My goal for this show is supporting purpose-led movements through talking with innovators, creatives and enterprises, which neatly makes the acronym TWICE, which is the show name if you're wondering. Come for the social innovation, creativity and enterprise, and stay for the journeys to now and craft beer tasting and rating in signature long-form episodes. I'm currently scheduling guests for 2018 shows upcoming for you, our listeners, in more than 50 countries. Thank you for lending us your ears, it means a lot. I hope the conversations offer inspiration and encouragement for getting involved in the impact space near you, in whatever shape or form. Beyond here lie some of the journeys to now questions we ask all our guests, including some of the highlights and outtakes that didn't make the main episode cut. Enjoy. Dan, your first, your worst and your best ever jobs.
My first job, I actually shredded paper for a cleaning company. They had a kind of a subsidiary that did paper shredding. So I was on that in the school holidays when I was about 13. Got paid petty cash, which is probably frowned upon, but that's it was good fun. It was a good experience. To be honest, it probably had to be my worst job as well. To be honest, I think it was quite interesting. Well, at the start when I learnt about the shredder and all that, but because we weren't allowed to read any documents or anything, we just had to throw them straight in the shredder. It got pretty mind-numbing, but very good experience.
Still got all your fingers?
I do, yeah, still all
excellent.
10. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think I got 10. And sorry, it was my best job.
First, worst and best, yeah.
I mean, my best job. I mean, I really love the job I'm in, and I've only been in it three or 4 months. But I guess in terms of where my values, I guess are and aligned. I worked for the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs for 3.5 years. That was working with all mayors in New Zealand, assisting them to develop programs, either national, local, or regional programs for youth employment. Really working with them, to develop those programs. We did research programs of our own as well, to assist young people to get into employment, in New Zealand. So that was a really, really cool role. I had to learn and develop quite quickly, and meet a whole bunch of different people, which was really, really cool. So yeah, I was a youth worker prior to that, so it was kind of a youth working role on steroids, really, which was great.
And if there's an analogue, it's got to be an analogue object, item or thing that at the moment you can't live without. What would it be?
It could. I think it could be. Well, at the moment, it's my sunglasses. I just can't. I go outside and it's so bright, so I have to be my sunglasses.
One last curveball. Looking back to your younger self, now looking to your slightly older self, what would you have done differently?
One, try harder at secondary school. But two, I think I've been on this kind of journey within myself at the moment, thinking about how I would have done things differently once I left school, and I think it would have been to take a gap year. And it's not a gap year where I just go and do whatever I want, but a real gap year to discover a little bit more about myself. I think as we all were when we were that age, we were a little bit naive and we thought we really knew where we wanted to go. I was really, really proud of my achievements through university and getting a degree, really like that. But I think if I was to have that gap year, I would have gone on a different journey. I can't say what the journey was because I didn't do that, but I really would have taken a gap year and just discovered a little bit about myself, travelled a bit, worked a little bit, and just enjoyed life and seen what was kind of thrown at me.
You've basically got at least a couple of decades ahead of you before you hit your midlife crisis, which is when I think that's the second opportunity to get your gap year, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah,
the kids will be grown up by then and stuff like that, yeah?
And they'll just roll their eyes and go, yeah, Dad.
What was it? Sports car, motorbike, travel, enlightenment in Nepal. There's quite a selection these days you can hit.
Yeah.
Oh, no, great. You can show family and friends how they can access this and many other shows on their digital devices by sharing the free gift of podcasting. Start them on their digital radio journeys by setting them up with this show, and they'll think you're a magician and guru. Also, if the shiny rectangular computer in your pocket is an iPhone, you hold the power to positively impact this show, reaching a wider audience. Simply navigate to the purple-coloured Apple Podcasts app, search for Twice, 2 Weeks in Creative Endeavour, and rate the show with gold stars. Thank you.